Hello and welcome to Tim Conley Drums. Today we're going to discuss the 6 things that get you fired from a band that you don't even realize you're doing. What often happens is guys are in bands and they're doing things that are annoying their bandmates. Sometimes the bandmates keep quiet. They might talk amongst themselves a little bit, but for the most part, they're not telling you that it's annoying them. Sometimes if they do tell the person that is doing these things, these 6 things, they get offended and they end up quitting the band anyways. But here's the 6 things that get you fired lickety split. Number 6, this is a big one. Even though it's number 6 on my list, it's ego and narcissism. So if you're in a band situation and you've got a big ego, there's going to be a problem because, in my opinion, of years and years, over 40 years, 45 years of band experience, ego is often linked directly to insecurity. Because people that are secure, they don't have to brag about their skills. They don't have to talk about their skills. You just watch them do their thing and you know they're skilled. So there's no need to really talk about it. People that are insecure about their skills, even if they are skilled, they like to talk about it. They like to brag about it. They like to walk around the bar and tell everybody about how great of a singer they are, how great of a guitar player they are, or whatever. Now, obviously, not everybody's like this, obviously. But I've been in bands with people that were hideously insecure. They had talent. They were a talent, but the insecurity was their downfall. Also, I believe narcissism is also linked to insecurity. And as a result, being narcissistic, they are central focused. They're focused on themselves. They want the topic to be about themselves. If they're in a conversation, they want to tell you all about themselves. They want to hear high praise. Wow, man, you're really awesome. And this is a narcissistic trait. So that ego lined up with narcissism, backed up with insecurity, will get you fired. Because eventually the guys in your band, especially if you're on tour and you're living with this person and you're dealing with them on a daily basis constantly, you just get tired of that. And I don't care how good they are, they gotta go. Because I'm just tired of dealing with this. A big thing about being in a band is, especially a band that's touring or playing a lot and rehearsing a lot. And if you're in a band where you rent out a rehearsal studio and you rent it out by the month, so in other words, you're in there constantly. When you spend a lot of time with people and these things start to come out, it can be super annoying. Number 5, speeding up and slowing down. Now, this is usually pointed right at the drummer. The drummer is speeding up and slowing down. But I believe all musicians are responsible for their own time. Now, obviously, the drummer is going to lead in this category, especially if he's playing with a click. Now, if you're playing with a click, whether it be, live or in the studio, mainly live, there's no excuse for speeding up and slowing down. You just play with the click, and you have to develop the skills to be able to play with the click and make the click breathe. In other words, it's okay if you're a little behind the click or even a little bit ahead of the click. It's living and breathing. If you're a robot and you play strictly with the click, sometimes the music can feel a little stiff. But I know from my own experience, because I play 90% of the gigs that I have done in the last 25, 30 years have been live with a click, and you gotta stay in time. There's nothing worse than a singer trying to sing, there's no click, and the drummer is constantly speeding up, because it's human nature. We've all been there. We all speed up and slow down. I always tell my students, you're either a rusher or a dragger. There's nothing in between. So there's always a tendency, when you get excited, you're going to speed up. There's also a tendency, if you're playing a fast tempo, when you start to get tired because your technique isn't the greatest, you start to slow down. So you're going to speed up and slow down. It's absolutely perfectly normal. But when you speed up to the point where the singer, especially if they're singing a song with a ton of words in it, what's that? There's one Bare Naked Ladies song where this vocals, it's almost like it's constant rhyming, but he's constantly saying word after word after word. He's barely getting a breath in. I can't remember what the song is called, but it's a Bare Naked Ladies song. And if you're playing a song like that, the timing from the band, particularly the drummer, because I know from experience that a lot of singers, for timing, they follow the drummer. So they take their cues for the timing from the drummer. So imagine singing a song that's got a lot of words in it, and the drummer is speeding up in the band and you're trying to sing it. Or let's say you're a guitar player and you've got a very busy, intricate guitar part, and you can play it fine at the required tempo. But if that drummer pushes it up 5, 10, 15, 20 BPM, then it gets difficult for the guitar player to move through the changes that have to be moved through, or a keyboard player, because you got to speed it up. And sometimes going faster throws the song off. Also, James Brown used to do this. He would play live way faster than the recorded song. Now, I understand why he did it. It's for energy. It's to get the crowd, riled up. It's to get the band riled up. It's to create a very energetic feel to the music. But to me, it kind of kills the song, because I know the song based on the tempo that they recorded it at. So when he would play like Sex Machine, get on up, and he would play it so fast that it killed the song for me. Now, I'm guilty of this myself. I used to be a speeder. I used to be someone that always used to speed up in and around choruses when things, dynamically they rise. Doesn't mean your speed has to go with those dynamics. The song is dynamic. You're in the chorus. You're blazing out those quarter notes on the bell of the cymbal, and those quarter notes have really sped up. I used to be guilty of that. Then I started, of course, music school. Tim, you're speeding up, practicing with a metronome. So up until the 90s, I actually did have a problem with that speeding up thing. And then the 90s, I really started to focus on practicing with a metronome. I started playing in bands with live clicks. And then from then until now, that problem was resolved. Now, occasionally, human nature, you're going to speed up. Sometimes the crowd response, you're playing in front of 1,000 people, let's just say, and that crowd gets you excited. There is a natural tendency to speed up. You've got to be aware of it and keep it under control so you don't lose your job. All right, number 4. This is a big one too. Overplaying. If you're playing Sugar Pie Honey Bunch, get, Sugar Pie Honey Bunch. I'm not a singer. And you just got to lean in on those get. Play that one Motown drum fill that everybody wants to hear, and it's the most famous drum fill of all time. Boom, brata. Play that, fine. But if you're Neil Peart behind the kit, or Keith Moon behind the kit, and you're playing a groove tune, nothing gets you fired faster than overplaying. If you get in the way of the singer, and the singer is, confused and fighting with you, what the hell? Why is he playing drum fills in the middle of a verse? Singers are trying to tell a story. Songs are poetry. So singers are trying to sing a poem. They're trying to convey emotion. They're trying to get a reaction. They're trying to get this song out at a specific tempo and speed. Now, maybe you got your speed together. Awesome. But you don't need the deg. Now is the perfect time for the bludgeon. You don't want to be overplaying any musician. Guitar players playing too much. You know, if you're playing a reggae tune and you're just catching that upstroke on the end of the beat, that's all you play. If you're playing Billie Jean, boom, got, that's all you play. You know, you don't have to play anymore. Play for the song, not for your ego. That's what I tell all my students and my band classes that I teach as well. Play to the song. What does the song require? How can I lift the band? How can I make the singer sing the best that they possibly can? I'll tell you how. Stay out of their way. Back them up. Be there for them, but don't overplay in the sections where they're trying to convey emotion in the song, specifically in ballads. You know, you got your legendary drum fills, but time them in the right spots. Don't play that drum fill right in the middle of the vocal line. Okay, so let's move on. Number 3, complaining about anything and everything. This can be super annoying. You want to get fired from the band, be negative. You want to get yourself kicked out of the band, just be negative, complain about everything, complain about the venue you're at, complain about the songs, complain about the set list, complain about other band members, complain about the crowd, complain about the manager, the sound guy, the light guy. Just keep complaining. Eventually, your bandmates will get fed up with you and tell you to hit the high road. I couldn't tell you how many bands I played in where there's always that one guy that, or girl, I've played in bands with girls too, that are complaining about everything. And it's just their nature. Their nature is to complain. When you're dealing with somebody like that, it can really kill the vibe. You know, you're at a gig, you're excited to play. Yeah, there's only 25 people there, but hey man, it's paid rehearsal is the old attitude, right? But this one particular person in your band, there's nobody here. What's the point? I should never have even come to this gig. And then you're just like, man, like that just kills the vibe. And then when they're on stage and they're negative, oh my God, that's the worst because the audience then sees the negativity. That's the worst. So you're going to get kicked out of the band really quick if you have that negative personality vibe. Cheer up, be positive, try and look on the bright side of things, and try and uplift your bandmates. That's the whole thing about being in a band is you're a team, you work together. And you're only as good as the weakest link. If you're that negative weak link, there's going to be a problem. You're going to get replaced. All right. Number 2, this is another big one. Not wanting to or not showing up for rehearsal. Now, I'm going to admit I'm a little bit guilty of this. I actually, when I was much younger, I enjoyed rehearsing and I enjoyed the social element of rehearsing, and I would never not show up without calling. So if I knew I couldn't make a rehearsal, I certainly wouldn't call an hour before, the day before. Yeah, I can't make it unless there was an emergency or I got sick or I was hurt or, life shit. But if I just, I don't feel like rehearsing, I don't want to go, I would still go. Because it's not fair to your bandmates. People have invested time, money, just the time it takes to book. Sometimes it's really difficult to get rehearsal time. There's not as many rehearsal places as there used to be. Now, obviously, if you're rehearsing in somebody's garage or in somebody's house or at somebody's place of work, if they own a business and it's a garage and you can practice in there, then that element of money is eliminated. But if you don't have those elements and you have to book a rehearsal studio, well, that's money. That's people's time. You have to respect people's time and money and effort that's being put into arranging these rehearsals. So not showing up, either you don't show up and don't tell anybody, or you just say, I don't want to go, and you make an excuse up a day before, 2 days before, even a week before. It's shit. Now, like I said, obviously I'm going to rehearse if I have to now, regardless. I'm definitely going to rehearse. But I grew out of being a big fan of rehearsing. I prefer to gig. You have to go to rehearsal. So you go, you do your 2, 3, 4 rehearsals, whatever you need to do, and then you gig. Now, once you start gigging, personally, this is just my opinion, I don't see a huge need to continue rehearsing unless you're going to add new songs or there's going to be some changes. You've decided to rearrange a song, whatever. So if there's going to be something different happening, okay, I get it. Yeah, got to rehearse it. But if it's just going to be the same 33 songs and the band sounds fine, I mean, obviously, if the band isn't sounding good, back to the drawing board, you got to rehearse. But if the band sounds good, status quo, few rehearsals, get working. And once you start working, if you're not changing anything, I don't see the need to rehearse. But it's crappy if the rehearsal's booked and one member of the band screws it all up for all the members of the band by not showing up and giving lame excuses in the process. Sometimes it's hard to get 4, 5, 6. I don't know how bands do it with more than 5 people, how they arrange 6+ schedules. You know, if you have a band with horn section, or you've got percussion, or you've got, a few keyboard players or a bunch of guitar players, I don't know how bands do that. I've only played in a few bands where there was large numbers of people in the band. The majority of the bands I played in are 3, 4, and 5 people. That's the common. And I find it, obviously, you got 3 people, it's easier than 4, it's easier than 5. But most commonly, you got a 5-member band or a 4-member band. Those are the 2 most common. It's usually fairly decent to get people to rehearse because most guys in the band are going to be excited to rehearse. They want to get out there and gig. They know they got to get into the rehearsing to get out to gig, so they're excited to rehearse. So if you've got that one guy that's canceling rehearsal for lame reasons and you know it's bullshit, then he's on the way out anyways. He's already checked out mentally. So why keep him around? Unless he is someone that, like, the guy that's booking the rehearsal or the leader of the band. If it's him, that's a little bit more difficult, obviously, to get rid of somebody, but you can still do it because he's obviously checking out. He doesn't want to rehearse, he doesn't want to do the band, and he doesn't care about getting better and performing well at the gigs. And that's a catastrophe if you don't want to perform well and play well at the gigs. You want to put your best foot forward, rehearse. Number 1, here is the biggest one of all, in my opinion. No loyalty to the band. Now, let me specify, unless you tell them in advance when you join the band that you are a gigging professional musician, you play in 3, 4, 5 bands, or you sub out in different bands, so they know up front what they could potentially be getting into. But if you tell them, yeah, I'm dedicated, I'm loyal, I'm in this band, and then you're subbing out or you're not showing up, or back to number 2, you're not showing up to rehearsal, or you're not paying the money. Like if you shoot a video and you owe $200 for the video and you don't pay for it, well, that's a sign of not being loyal to your band and to the commitment that you made in that band. So loyalty to the band is actually a huge thing. Now, I'm going to tell you a story about a friend of mine. I'm not going to mention any names. He's a great guy, and he's a top-level pro in the Toronto area. But because he's a top-level pro, he's very, very busy. The guy's playing in 3, 4, 5 bands. He subs in with everybody and anybody that comes to town. He's a very, very busy guy. I used to sub for him all the time. And at one point, the band that I would often sub in for him said to me, like, who is our drummer? Is it you or is it so-and-so? And I would say, look, man, I'm the sub at this point. I'm certainly not going to step on somebody else's toes and say, yes, I'm your new drummer. I might be your new drummer for the night, but I am not going to step in and say, yeah, I'm your new drummer. And this guy gets his ass kicked out. It's up to the band to deal with him. I'm just subbing in for the night. Now, what would happen, though, is, like I said, he's playing in so many different bands. He's also getting offers to sub. And I've been down this road too. and I'll tell a story of me being a bit of a dick. So in this situation, he agrees to a gig, let's say, this Saturday, whatever, and it could be a week before, could be 3 days before, could be the night before, could be the day of. He contacts the band that he's agreed to do the gig with and says, yeah, I can't make the gig, I'm hiring a sub. Now, if you hire a sub, it's not the end of the world, as long as the sub comes in and does a good job. If you out and out cancel with no sub and now the gig is going to be terminated, that's really shitty. Now, normally, my friend would get a sub. He would not be a complete asshole because that's not his character. He's a great guy. But he would get a sub because sometimes, I don't know if I agree with this or not. Let me know what you think about this, guys. But he's got this one gig booked. He's agreed to it. The loyalty factor, he's agreed. But then he decides, another gig came along that pays more, or it's closer to home, or it's a better gig. He decides to cancel the original gig he booked and take the second offer. Some people think that's shitty. I personally have never done that. I don't think it's very good for you to do that to your first original bandmates, and you're going to get yourself fired doing that sort of thing. Because if you are dedicated to this band, whatever band you're in, and you let them know in advance, though, that you play in 3 bands, go with the first band. If the first band, unless the second gig is Carnegie Hall, playing with, a big name band or something, and then just explain to your bandmates, look, I got an offer to play in such and such a band for the night or for this short tour or whatever. Maybe your bandmates will understand, oh, wow, you got offered to play with that band? That's amazing. Good for you. And they'll say, yeah, we understand, man. No problem. But if you just treat your band like second-rate citizens and you just take that gig and say, screw them, this band, because that's basically how they're going to interpret it if you do that. This gig, this second gig offer that I got, it's a better gig, it pays more, I'm just going to go with that. And those guys can either deal with the sub or they can go and find themselves their own sub, which is totally inappropriate. So something that I did that wasn't great in the past was, showing up for gigs when I was sick. Now, some people would say, well, what's wrong with that? Well, when you show up for a gig and you're sick, you're risking giving it to everybody in the band. You're risking giving it to the audience. And also, you're not going to play well. So I learned the hard way that if you are sick, and I'm not talking about a little sniffle, a little cough. I'm talking about deathly ill, bedridden, you can barely move. Every time you sit up, you throw up. You shouldn't be out playing. So I have shown up and done gigs deathly ill. And in hindsight, when I look back, yeah, I got through the show. Yeah, my bandmates were happy that I didn't cancel, but maybe, I don't know for sure, but maybe I made other people sick. I don't know. But it wasn't a great gig for me either. Setting up your gear, especially a drum kit, playing a show, tearing down, driving to and from, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of effort, and it's hell if you're not feeling well. So don't put yourself through that. Some people would say, oh, you did the right thing. Some people would say you're an asshole for showing up to work sick. That's one of those, opinion things. It can go either way. The other thing that I have done, and we've all done this, is I've shown up at a gig in the past. I certainly wouldn't do this at a really high-level pro gig, but in the past, I've shown up at gigs. I'm unprepared. I'm unprepared. I can remember showing up at this one gig. I was a sub, and I was not prepared. And the band was not happy with my performance because I was just underprepared. Now, it's embarrassing for you if you do that, so I advise you to always be prepared. It's always the drummer, most times, that's underprepared, doesn't know the endings, doesn't know the changes, doesn't know the set list, etc., etc. So I've done that in the past. I haven't done it for years and years and years, but I have done it in the past. I learned my lesson. Always be prepared for every gig you do. All right, guys, those are my 6 things that are going to get you fired from the gig that you don't even realize you're doing. So stop doing them. All right, guys, thanks very much for watching. Please comment. If you care about this kind of content, you're interested, why don't you subscribe? It won't hurt. A like is always awesome too. Thank you very much, guys. And as always, keep drumming. See ya.